All right, I give up. I'm going to say hello first. Good morning, Dr.
Good
Arya.
morning, David. Wow, coming out with an attitude and
I'm just
all.
going at it. Yep. So, yeah, it's Friday, and I've gone through a bad burnout, and my definition of burnout is thank God it's Friday or thank God it's Monday. I mean, how do you feel? So I'm a thank God it's Monday guy, and Friday's a nice day to wind down, but I don't have that mindset anymore. I love what I
I
do.
don't.
Yep,
I
go to
don't
work.
too, David.
Yeah, so that's to me the definition of burnout or not. But anyway, today we're in dynamic healing moments, and again, dynamic healing acknowledges the interaction between your stresses and your nervous system and your physiology. And we've talked about how the essence of the human condition is social connection, is because we evolved from the bottom to the top of the food chain by cooperation. So there's a desperate need to be socially connected, and the deeper the connection, the better. And the deeper the connection, the deeper the triggers. So couples trigger each other. And you have to remember when you're anxious or frustrated, you're not here anymore. You're somewhere in the past, right?
Yep.
Am I oversimplifying things?
I mean, that's on the money, and it's not a choice. It's
Right.
a brain phenomenon. It's an evolutionary because we need to remember without remembering, which means that it needs to be so automatic. When you see something black and slithering on the ground and hissing at you, you don't want to go, is that a puppy, a kitty cat, or is that a snake? So we have things programmed in us from evolutionary perspective, which means our ancestors, from cave people days all the way up to us. And so we have patterns in our head, and not in our head, but specifically in our brain to protect us.
Right. And so what happens is that couples trigger each other. And I won't say I made a point about 15 years ago to start watching people really carefully in the office. And I'm now convinced I don't know any couples that don't trigger each other quite a bit. Even the
Mm-hmm.
quote perfect marriages, they have everything or don't have anything. And I mean, there's various degrees, but I mean, it's pretty significant. And I think it's so common it's sort of become normalized. Like this is the way life is. So what
Yeah.
happens? You have family patterns put into your brain by just your behavior, your parents' behaviors. And that's how you learn. You watch how they react to stresses. And if you like the way they reacted, you adopt it. If you don't
Yep.
like the way they acted, you reject it. But the problem is when you reject it, the patterns are still running the show. So if you adopt the pattern or reject the pattern, you are programmed by your past, period. So you have to understand the programming before you can work around it. So I will let you talk. So Dr. Arya,
Yeah.
psychologist,
No,
guru,
no. Oh,
you,
please, you might,
you get to listen today.
David, you might trigger someone. So let's not use that. On a serious note,
Um, you get to listen for a second, then you're gonna get the last word of some profound advice. But this is really a serious deal, and it's funny, but it's really not. It's very tragic because it's what blows relationships apart. It's like a reverse magnet. So think about your first date, and you have all these things about your spouse or partner that upset you. It was the first date of the first year of your marriage. You never would say anything. And
mm,
so my nurse became somewhat of a genius at this, and we realized that family issues were a big deal. So we just simply ask a question. We talk about triggers. Then we say, what's the most common thing that triggers you? And 80% of the time, it was the dishwasher, how the partner loaded the dishwasher. And a lot of time, they start going at it right there in the office. And we were incredulous, but it happened for a couple of years. It was like this. It was the dishwasher. So
mm.
you have a family together, a life together, friends together, community together, and you get and start. And so I guess my message today is just so again, we're going to be talking about this for a few weeks here, but I have my own set of triggers that I'll share a little bit later next week. And so we understand these are from the past. Remember, awareness is the essence of relationships. And when you're triggered, awareness is gone. And you'll say things and do things that aren't very nice, but you don't
Yeah.
because you've lost awareness, right?
Right.
Anyway,
That,
okay, so I'm done talking. I'll let.
no, David, I think you're on fire in the sense that if we just pause for a second, when do we lose awareness? Let me explain it clearly. When we over identify with our thoughts and emotions as if they're truth,
Right.
as if it's an order, as if it's a threat. So these are the three most common things that we tend to, when we believe everything we hear in our head. So step one, when we get activated, which means then you are now drunk in your thoughts, emotions, or sensations. When we are just over caught up with things, the narratives in our head, you can hear it sometimes, but more than 60% of people tend to not hear it, but they feel it in their body. Like, you
Right.
just pissed me off, right?
Right.
And so what we want to tell people, in the moment you notice a mood shift and or tension in your body, that's about 60% tend to notice that, they don't hear thoughts,
Right.
is that moment you are heading down towards a wall and you're going to destroy things,
Right.
including you're going to feel additional pain later on. You're going to actually feel insult someone and have pain in them. So once you're activated, you are now unconsciously processing and being flooded from the past. That's developmental trauma, which means things from the past. Oh, it has nothing to do with it, really. So the vets who come back, who get activated from Vietnam and the war, is just psychological. So to dismiss that we don't get flooded by past trauma is to dismiss and disrespect military people who suffer with PTSD. So with that in mind, I just want to put that on the side, because a lot of my patients say, oh, there's nothing to do with the past. So what I'm saying to everyone is, in the brain, there is no delete button. Grass just grows over it, patterns. And whenever we get hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, halt, because it will ungrass that brain path.
Right. No, I like that. There's no delete button on the patterns. And we're going to talk about the Hoffman process next week or so. It's a process where it makes you very, in an organized fashion, aware of the patterns that are playing out in your family. And
Yeah.
I've been in psychotherapy for 13 years, which I strongly support, by the way. But there's a tendency to think, well, if I just really understand these patterns and where they came from, that somehow they're going to go away. And when I went to Hoffman, I realized they were all right there. In fact, I talked about them so much, they're actually stronger. So there's a way in the workshop that Les and I did last weekend, or I guess the weekend before last, was these tools we're offering just break. In other words, the patterns are always going to be there. You can't fix them, solve them, or change them. So when the pattern comes up, you just find a way to process it within a minute, 5 minutes, maybe a half a day. But you don't spend time going backwards and analyzing and fixing, because it takes your attention off the future, which is actually a solution for chronic pain. Creating the life that you want moves you
Yeah.
away from pain. And when you're snapping at your spouse or partner about the dishwasher, where's your brain? I mean, think about it. I mean, how do you look when you're
Yeah.
pissed off about the dishwasher? You don't look very good. They're not feeling very, they're not feeling very good. And you go, well, that's silly. Well, it's the real, that's just a metaphor for all the other probably thousands of triggers in a relationship that keep going and going and going. And they get stronger with time and repetition. They get stronger with practice. And so that's where about 5 years people do okay. At 10 years, people start to strain. And by 15 years, a lot of people, unless they understand these concepts, actually just they can live with each other. But that excitement, and the excitement is gone because they're trying to struggle through these patterns. So once
Yes.
you learn how to de-energize the patterns, then you have a chance to actually thrive and have a great time.
Yeah. David, I think that's exactly it. As the question is, thrive. And what does that mean? It's vitality. What does that mean? It means that if you recognize you're a hothead, if you recognize you get activated about certain things, have an agreement with your partners or children. One of the things I have with my kids, or even anyone, family members, is when I'm feeling very activated, my breath work is not working, I basically will say is, hey, you know what? I need to step out of this for a second. Or I'll actually say, maybe in a meeting, is I need to use the restroom. I'll be right back. It's
Right.
a way for me to unplug, so I don't have to be that person I don't wish to be. Which
Right.
comes back to what I mentioned yesterday to the audience. How do you wish to be during the most difficult moment? This is a mental skill style that I'm trying to offer folks, and that David and I are trying to encourage. Is when you are not in your best, your body's not in the best, your mind is not in the best. So this is what we call mind-body training. Recognize when you are over-identified with your thoughts, feelings, and sensations in your body. The moment you notice a mood shift or tension in your body, you are now getting drunk, literally like alcohol.
Right.
Emotions work like alcohol. You and I know this. Everyone in the audience knows this. When we're so depressed, so anxious, so angry, so jealous, so, hateful with comments and things that people say to each other, there is a price to pay. You will feel inflammation in your body. Not
Right.
only will you inflame someone else, you'll inflame yourself. So
Right.
it's a two-way street. Ultimately, is what we're trying to say to everyone is, how do you wish to be? Navigate your day with a clear set of GPS, meaning a guidance. Every morning, wake up and ask yourself, how do I wish to show up? Which means, do you wish to be kind, loving, forgiving? Because if you're not forgiving to others, it'll be hard for people to forgive you. It's a
Right.
two-way street. So it's easier to be kinder. Even when someone's not nice to you, you have a choice. Why? Because your thoughts and emotions are never to dictate your life choices. It is your values.
Well, and again, it boils down to creating space, which you just pointed out. And so we'll be discussing this in some detail next week. But the word of the day is actually just be kind, be nice, no matter what, no matter how you feel, act nicely, period. And a lot of times you don't feel that nice, but just be nice. All right,
Yep.
Aria.
Here, Hanscom, and everyone, have a great morning. It's Friday,
Yep.
and have an awesome day and a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.